Hey all, welcome to the Hyderabad Power Platform User Group, and this is the July meetup. So welcome all, and thank you for coming together on a Saturday and learning about the new things. Today we have two sessions as part of our agenda. The first one is by Venkat, and he's going to talk about how you can prepare yourself for clearing out the PL600 certification and work towards the path of becoming a solution architect. Venkat has recently awarded with the C Sharp Corner MVP award, and today he's going to talk about the PL600 topic. Other than that, we have our second speaker, which is Viswanatha Swamy, and he's going to talk about full stack application with Web API, gRPC Web, and Angular 11. So these are the two sessions that we have as part of our agenda today. I'll be sharing the user group URL on the chat in case you're not already a member and you want to join the user group. You can do that using the link. So I'll be sharing those details shortly on the chat. Without further ado, I'll pass it over to Venkat. So, Venkat, can you hear me?
Yes, Ritika.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Venkat, for coming on the user group meetup and sharing your excellent thoughts about the topic that you're going to present.
Sure. Thank you, Ritika. Uh, so let me share my screen.
Mhm.
So are you able to see my screen?
Yes, I'm able to see your screen and I added it to the screen. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, thanks, Ritika and Yash for giving a brief introduction about myself. So just as ago again, just I'm an recently awarded with C Sharp Corner MVP, and I am a Power Platform architect and also as an Azure architect as well, and certified in Microsoft Dynamics CRM. Especially I worked morely on 2015, 16, and Dynamics 365 CE, and mostly in Azure integrations. Also, I worked with around 11 plus years of experience. And coming to the professional life, I am working with EPAM as a lead software engineer. Previously, I worked with the Infosys, Accenture, Bosch, Procurement, and Microsoft. And coming back to the community contribution, I am acting as a community lead at D365 Champs, a Dynamics 365 and Power Platform community. And this is my blog, and just I will share for a few minutes, a couple of minutes to this screen. And these are all my accolades, and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, which I have renewed this year as well. So these are, if you would like to get in touch with you, these are all the things that you can go it. So without so let next move to the next to the topic currently. So what is there in this agenda for today? So I'm going to go about the PL600 introduction and PL600 learning path. And in this particular learning path, what are all the things that there are two parts are there. One is becoming a solution architect. In this, just as in a brief helicopter view, I will give you like who can become a solution architect and what are all the things that they are looking for, and also the power ups architecture topics that I'm going to cover about. And at the end, I am going to give about the sample project details and its explanation, and I'm going to also give about the project details with the help of the fit gap analysis. So generally the RFPs will be done by using this one, which will becomes under the becoming a solution architect. Almost it is in pre-sales related things. And yep. So if you go to this particular screen, like certification, so this is the URL that you can go it, and this is exam PL600 Microsoft Power Platform Solution Architect. And I would like to take a pause here. So there is not, there is, so there are number of people keep on approaching me with the details like, yes, we did MB600, can we directly do the PL600 and all? But yes, you can do it, but there are certain learning areas that you have to recheck. So that all these things tips I'm going to cover it in my in the next part of the session. So yes, so coming to the learning path of it, so learning path covers the pre-sales and analysis phases of a project, which include like what it takes to become a solution architect, and discovering the customer needs and proposing a solution, and working with the requirements and performing fit gap analysis. So just then generally a myth is there will be with the development team, like once the project starts and development team starts doing it, they don't have any clue, they don't generally see the solution architect be joining in certain regular daily sync up calls and all. But the thing here that they have to know about, with this particular PL600, this learning path, they will know about in depth, and they will also understand the important responsibilities of a solution architect, that they are that as an architect he is be going. So just as an important note, solution architect is the only an important person who will be present in each and every phase of a project. Okay, so it could be directly with when we are having a conversation with the customer. Whenever new project comes, there the development team will not be present, and the same way the functional team will also not present. But during that particular time, most of the things will be taken care by the solution architect. This will be I am going to cover in this one. And next, the learning path. So yes, there is again an myth. So a solution architect, everybody, if we hear an word about architect, so generally there was an conception that he is a technical person, but not. So a solution architect should have the functional and as well as technical knowledge of Microsoft Power Platform and Dynamics 365 apps which are related to, and also the related Microsoft Cloud solution and other third-party technologies. This learning path looks at architecture, data modeling, security, and related tasks for a solution architect, and what are all the prerequisites that are required, and also the Microsoft Power Platform as a developer experience he should be required, or as a functional consultant he should have an experience about it. Okay, and also he should be having an experience with the Dynamics 365 as a developer or a functional consultant. So ideally, if you see right, this PL600 course is in a 5-day full day uh, training that will be delivered as an training for all the Microsoft people. So I will try to cut it down short, like I'll try to cover it in an 1 hour, so as to give certain eagle view about all this PL600 certification is about, and all these things about. So yes, so the first thing is the becoming a solution architect. Okay, so I will take a pause here. So let me go through an important thing here. So let me minimize my screen. So any person, if you wanted to go about the examination PL600, so just this is the URL that I'll be going to provide at the end. So this is the thing where you will get the details about PL600, what is it about, and if you wanted to schedule an exam, so if you are going to give it, most of the people they are aware of how you can schedule an exam, but the people who are new to it, and they are joining for the first time and all, so this is the side where you have to do it for this PL600. So what are all the skills that are mentioned is measured like for architecting a solution, performing solution envisioning and the requirement analysis skills measures are 35 to 40%, and as an architecting a solution 40 to 45%, and the implementation is 15 to 20%. So generally I will give you right. So if you are a normal technical developer, you will know about this implementing the solution of 15 to 20% only. And in the same way, if you are a functional person where you are mostly working with the pre-sales team and all, you will be knowing about only this 35 to 40% only. So as a functional person, you should be able to know about what is that remaining 60% that are going inside the project. As a technical development person, what is that 80% that you are going to do it. So And as I said mentioned, there are two ways to prepare this particular certification. One is the online free, which is an excellent learning path that was provided by the Microsoft team. And it has two parts like Arctic solutions and the solution Arctic on these things. And also another one is then obviously an instructor-led paid one, where you can get an paid instructor, like you have to pay some amount of money for getting an exclusive specific training, one-to-one training. Okay. So yes, so architecting solutions for Dynamics 365 Microsoft Power Platform. These are all the things which I am going to cover it in my slides. So yes, so becoming a solution architect. So what does that it will take about it? So just as an agenda for it, right? Define we have to do a solution architect and what kind of role a solution architect that plays on a projects and what is the methodology that was given. And also important thing is getting to know your customer. Okay. So so what is a solution architect? A solution architect is a functional expert, he's a technical expert, and he is an go-to knowledge resource and a problem solver and owner of the solution and its design. Okay. So just as an important thing, right? So let me take it as a cinematic way, as in the Spider-Man, with the increase of the responsibility with the great strength gives the great responsibility, right? The same way, if you are heading to a solution architect role, you will get a more responsibility like functional expert. You should be a technical expert. You should be a go-to knowledge resource. See example, functional people, if they wanted to have any questions and all, they can reach out to you, they will reach out to you. In the same way, technical people, if they have any blockers, the development team will see for you. Then you have to go it and go to knowledgeable resource. In case whenever you are having a conversation with the customer, you should be aware about the other third party integrations that are present and the fallback mechanisms that has to be present outside the world, so that you can pitch in and wear the hat of an pre-sales person and give the technical and also the related things that are available, and also the problem solver at times, right? Most of the times the development team or the product team, any persons, first they will do it. If they cannot uh, resolve any kind of issues, right? Then they will look for a solution architect for their help. And also a solution architect is a responsible person and who has to take owner of the solution and its design. Okay. So at any point of time he should act as an frontline person and also the backline person. Okay. So as to make example, frontline person, when they are doing still the project is not started, when it is in pre-sales condition and all, he will be a frontline person. And at the backline person, like whenever the development team starts development, he has to see it whether the development team is correctly following the solution and its design without having any deviations and all. So this is a typical typical representation of any solution architect. And so if you see, right, solution architect has an hierarchy where they can have an interaction with directly with the program manager, project manager, and the delivery architect, and as well as the customer. So for this solution architect, he or she has to work directly with all the leads, whether it is data migration with the development lead, build and release managers, integration leads, functional leads, and cross functional leads, and also the QA leads and test analysts, test consultants, functional consultants, infrastructure consultants, developers, and all these things. So what are the soft skills that are essential and why are they important? See, when we coming to the sales pitch of an pre-sales related thing, right? So first, a solution architect should have an important rate of communication. Okay. So whatever the thing that is present, he should be in a good position to communicate to the customer, to the broader audience. Okay. So if you see, right, what are the essential soft skills that are required? Collaboration, coordination, communication, constructive feedback, problem solving, and delegation. These are all the main important things, and also main more things that are also present. So collaboration. So as I said before, right, solution architect or an architect is a person who has to work with number of people. So collaboration is a critical thing, and also asset expertise, while at the same time not shutting down the see. Yes, architect is an knowledgeable person, but at the same time, whenever any discussions are happening, right, he or she has should not shut down the ideas of the team. Okay, so once any brainstorm sessions are happening, he or she should not uh, shut down the ideas of the other team members, but he can improvise it, and also should be an good to negotiating positive outcomes for challenges with the both customer and project teams. See, any project will have the pros and cons, but as a solution architect you should take extract the positive outcomes of it when you are having a when you are wearing a hat of a when you are having an hat of a customer facing role. You will have to had an hat on that, and when you are having a conversation with the project teams, you should wear that particular hat. And communication, you should have an clear and crisp communication that is required. Both the written and verbal are important. And also you have to know about how to translate the technical thing to a business users and back again. See, business users they will come with a business a problem. So you, as an architect you should be in a position to translate your technical needs to the business user, so that they will understand in their terms and all, and also work from conversations to actionable requirements. So whenever you are having a conversations with the customer before any project kicks off, right, so all those things will be conversations only. So in the coming slides I'm going to show you how to convert all the conversations into an actionable requirements. And also important thing is you should be an good listeners throughout your role in project problem solving. Right. So important thing is you should know the difference between a symptom and a cause and look for patterns. So just I will give an example for the first one, symptom and cause. So the developer came up saying that so this is the problem area, why it is happening. So that was the symptom. Okay. So the code is getting breakdown, it is going in infinite loops and all. But as an architect we should look at the cause for it, why is it going and all. In the same way we have to look at the patterns, if there are any defects that are happening, where we have to see as an architect why that particular defects were coming, and we have to see about the patterns of the defects, whether they are cosmetic bugs or any understanding problem with the development team or the functional team, if there is any gap between the user story and all. And also keep an eye on the big picture even when solving a small problem. Example, right, as in a development team, just for to solve one particular problem, right, as the development team has an comfort zone of writing customization, that is writing the code. Okay, so when they came up and say there is, this is small code, will add a code. But as an architect we should have a step back and see the big picture, like without writing this particular code can we do it. Just as an example, right, see, as a developer I will think that okay, just I will write this particular code and it will resolve that particular issue. But as an architect I will see for the big picture. Okay, development team write the codes. After writing this particular code, it needs to be deployed, it needs to be tested in multiple environments, and also the regression has to be happen. And also after that deployment teams has to uh, migrate these particular changes. They may have to change certain kind of scripts. And also these these changes may not be feasible, because for every particular project during certain phases for the project for the production release, there will be an code freeze things are there. So this is the big picture as an architect you should see about. As a development team, first we tend to concentrate on resolving the issue, but as an architect we should also see the big picture of it, and also the look for long term solutions, not the shortcuts, and design with the next phase in mind. See, I said you in the before, right? These are all the different phases that are present, like initiate and design, implement, prepare, and operate. So if you observe, right, these are all the different activities that are present that will be done in any of the project. So as an architect, they have to streamline all these things. So first, create a joint understanding about the project and accountables, and define overall project context and solution. So for this, he has to align with the customer and partner. He has to plan the activities and understand the customer project objectives, and also understand the customer program and the governance model, and understand the communication model and the information flow, identify decision makers and team dependencies, and understand the functional requirements, adoption challenges, collect integration infrastructure and environment dependencies at high level, and present an high level architecture and solution assessment, and explain methodology. So these are all the things before initiating a project. Like, these are the things that architect should keep it in mind, and they have to work all these things in the parallel. But during the implementation, he has to, he or she has to provide, a solution architect has to provide timely guidance across functional, technical, and implementation aspects of the solution. It could be project management practices, or solution modeling and integration, functional and technical design guidance, and migration and implementation of the best practices. And during the preparation, so see, if you observe, right, during the implementation, he will be working mostly with the deployment, with the team, like the development team, or the functional team inside that particular one. And during the preparation, right, so he has to be involved in the go live planning, and also testing and acceptance, and also the technical and user readiness. So as to bring users on board and have them to adopt the solution and operate, right. So the project moved to the production. Post particular production, the job of an architect does not ends. So he has to uh, ensure the operations, smooth operations after deployment. Like, he has to do the review the solution health and usage, and advise on the tools and techniques to permanently monitor the adoption, and manage and operate successfully, and the supporting model as well. So we are in the pre-sales of it. So this is an typical SDLC, where initiate, analysis, design, and implement the deployment. So Arctic's role in the pre-sales, I said, right, we have to respond to the RFP, request for proposal. Most of the people, like the development or the functional team, may not be aware of these particular terms. These are the most of the things that were done by the pre-sales, that is before kick off any particular project, or the SOW gets signed off. These are all the initial things that that will happen, where the multiple customers will be working with the multiple partners, so as to get an project. So introductory customer meetings and demos and proof of concept, solution envisioning, and educate pre-sales resources and sales reps, and identify other potential opportunities. So just as an I will tell you as an architect, right, so we have to see before having a conversation with the customer. See, example, XYZ company called for an uh, work for all ABC consultants, and or DEF consultant and all. So before having a conversation, so generally that XYZ company will call for a general meeting. So before going to that particular meeting, right, so every consultant that who is present in ABC company, whether he is an architect or in DEF company, first they have to do about, okay, before coming to a customer, before attending to a customer meeting, you should be prepare well. So like, so what are the customers that are looking for, and if you are having an pre-sales, like based upon that particular solution that they are giving. So generally in an RFP, all the questions that were being given, and all the related things that will be discussed there. So there we have to look for all the alternate solutions that are present, or what are the product offerings that are present, and how those product offerings are aligned with the customer project. So what is the project best project methodology to use is, These are all. So before going to the customer, right, first you have to uh, do some kind of R&D, and D, and also to have an information about the customer. So where you will get it? So you have to go about to visit the customer website, and you have to see the customer, what kind of business they are doing it, and how they are investing, and what are their future plans, and what are all the main domain expertise that they are having. So and are also you have to take consideration, like what are all their kind of the budget they are having for all the projects and all. So these are all the information that you will generally you will get it uh, by simply going through the customer website. So just I said to you, right, what are the public resources to learn about your customer? Financials, board of directors, line of business. Generally, the people will call it as LOB, and mission and goals, and social media and the news. So discovery. So generally we have to survey it, and after that one, their workshop will be present, and the job shadow will be wrapping up. So solution architect is a key role on a project and must regularly navigate challenges presented to deliver successful solution. And he has to have an expertise in soft skills, just as important as a technical knowledge. And also knowing the broad Dynamics 365 Power Platform and Microsoft Azure capabilities allows architecting the best overall solution. So just in the normal 5 day session, we are going to give about a group exercise, but here in crisp, first we have to get to know about the customer, like what are all the potential customers information, and how we can evaluate this information, and understand how others might complete the same task, and remember quality of information matters more than quantity. So next is the Power Apps architecture topics. This is the second learning path. So the first learning path, I said it is a becoming a solution architect. So it covers majorly on the pre-sales part of an architect, and what are the things that are required for an architect, all these things. And the second one is the Power Apps architecture topics. Uh, so before having this, so what are all the things that are present in the Power Apps architecture? So we have to discuss the options for the apps and how to choose where to start, and discuss app composition options using components as part of our app architecture, and considerations of including portals as an app in your architecture. So options for app. So generally, what are all the things that see generally for any particular project, right? For any Dynamics 365 CE or Power Platform, anything and all. Now in a model driven app, all this Power Platform, low code, no code. Uh, generation and all the way of implementation, first the thing comes into mind is the app. So first we have to start with the Dynamics 365, and also we have to see what the app source, where what are all the related ISVs that are present, and also the custom solutions if that are present, where certain things that can be customized within the product. And yes, coming to the types of Power Apps, so for the people who are joining for the first time and who wanted to have an major introduction of the Power Apps, right? So Power Apps will have the three kind of apps: Canvas apps, and model-driven apps, and also the portal apps are present. So Canvas apps mainly start with the user experience with a pixel perfect control to build highly customized task and role based apps that mash up data from 300 plus resources sources. So this number keeps on increasing. And model driven apps generally, uh, these apps will internally concentrate more on the logic, business logic, like the data model relationships and business process, to automatically generate the responsive application. And the portal apps, so these are all the web-based apps that allow both internal and external stakeholders to view and update Microsoft Dataverse data securely. So starting with the model-driven app, so how we can go in the model-driven app. So Microsoft Dataverse can be used, and back office and process focused and responsive and consistent UI. We can do the user personalization, consistent accessibility, and we can use the tooling for the Microsoft Stack, Excel import and export, and customizing existing for first-party apps, and data relationship navigation, security trimming of UI. In the same way, main things that I have to do it about the Canvas apps, right? So generally, as a development team, functional team, every particular person who are working on the Power Apps know about all these things. But as an architect, you should be aware of these things. So simple. When you are wearing have hat of an project negotiation with the particular customer in the introduction meetings, if the customer asks you about a vague question like, okay, I heard about Power Platform, could you tell me about something about model driven apps, can you say me about the apps and all. So just these are the things that you should remind and remember. So these are so Canvas apps, these are task focused apps, visual representation of information and custom UI and device integration and basic offline support. And we have the leverage of embedding these things into SharePoint or the Teams embedding. Portals, Dataverse data driven, external user focused web application, and use model driven forms and views as a framework, and can be customized with standard web technologies like HTML, JavaScript, CSS, Bootstrap, etc. and all. So can have all solution architecture can have all app types. So just as solution architect, I am first discussing about the Microsoft stacks of it, stack only. Like it consists of the Power Platform, Dynamics, CRM, CE, and also the SEO related things. So common pattern like administration of data using model driven and user Canvas app, externally facing portal. Canvas app to solve edge cases that often would be ignored. Canvas app embedded in model-driven app to introduce visuals or connectors. So this is a roadmap. If you observe, right, Canvas apps, these are the things. Canvas components are there. Pro developer PCF components are there. Model-driven apps, which will happen the responsive and reflowing Canvas pages and a seamless navigation between model-driven pages and Canvas pages. So these are all the different options that are present. So now in the next slide, we are going to see how these things can be fitted together by an architect. So if you see, right, as I said before, Power Apps app is the container, and this particular app will have the dashboards, will be having views, will be having in the form and the canvas pages. And in case if you wanted to use the custom way of like the PCF controls and all, you have to use this particular components, and this component will be having this the PCF, and also the canvas components will have the connectors, expressions, and the theming. So see, important thing, okay, many options are there, many things are there, how can you conclude them? There is many information is there, and out of this available information, how can you make decide how many apps that are required? So this is an important thing, app composition. See, large monolithic apps should be avoided, and too many small apps are jagging to the user if they have to context switch frequently. And components can be used in multiple apps, allowing composition of apps that target users with specific needs, and offer group of users target mobile apps to save time when away from their desk, and extending and existing the apps. So see, whenever you are designing any particular app, right, you should see the things, always see the new updates, and also may include the things that you don't need, and may include the things you cannot reuse or replicate in custom. Compose a new app if you wanted to complete the control over what is included, and you must manually add new things to app navigation. And you can also use custom forms that you control the structure of it. And yes, as I mentioned, right, what are all the components that are needed? So the components that are present, right, these could be the canvas apps, and these could be the headers, the common widgets, or the PCF controls. All these things come, which are can be used along with the components. Generally, in a layman terms, components allow reuse within across the apps. So canvas components targeted for canvas app makers works only in canvas apps. PCF targeted for professional developers to build and works in model driven apps today and in preview for canvas apps. So this is an old This is a kind of outdated one. Like now we have an option to include the PCF controls as on Canvas apps. Recently, in the last few days, the Microsoft has released this particular option of it as well. So, and Canvas apps components usage and good for reuse and can be used in multiple apps, and it also allow leveraging of common maker skills and make it easier for multiple makers, and limited to capabilities of Canvas app formulas and connectors, and have a strategy for managing components. So building them separate from app customers promotes best use and multiple makers, and updates must be re-imported in each app that consumes the component. See, whenever these are all the best important practices that we should keep it in mind whenever we are doing the solution envisioning. PCF components, these can be used in both model driven and Canvas app, in both web and mobile, can be used in multiple apps. So can be used both new row and edit experiences should use purposefully to provide users a good experience. Typically can use multiple on form without performance problems, and requires code developers with TypeScript and HTML scripts, and updates done via solution update. Then each app that consumes the component automatically sees the update. See, these are all the things that can be present. So you can also look at the option of embedding Canvas app into the model-driven forms. So first we have to do about allows form content to pull data from any other connectors, and you can tie it to a column on a form, but not limited to only visualizing the columns data. And you can purposefully provide users a good experience, only available during edit and not available during creating of new rows, and only works in web. On the mobile, the columns default control will be shown. Um and save of form is not saving component data at the same time. So if you observe, right, navigate to the main form. If we use the new way of doing it, right, just I will keep a pause here. If you observe the notification, the user is trying to click on this particular contact. When they click on that particular contact, so through the account to the customer record, they can go for an next specific contact record. This is an example of navigating to the main form. Generally, to do it right, we have to write more code to it, but by using this fx model functions and all, simply you have to mention to which form you have to name, you have to navigate, and what is the contact id for it, and how to open a quick create. Simply if you click on it, you have to do it. So there is no need to write an um, more custom code. Simply you have to use this simple formula here. This is an example where we include the apps inside the modern driven apps. And how can we navigate to the views? If you observe, the user is trying to navigate to the all contacts by clicking on that particular all contacts. Simply they are navigating it to that particular view. So as formulas in apps get larger, more complex, consider if your work should be done somewhere else, and work can be offloaded to Power Automate flows, business rules and plugins, and more server-side logic for Microsoft Dataverse. Custom connectors to an Azure function or other custom logic sometimes can be better a choice. See, as I said before, many options are present for an architect. So during the solution envisioning, uh, think as in big picture on selecting this particular apps. So one should not more rely on the canvas apps and the modern driven apps. They have to see for the options for it. There are any certain things that can be automated, then we have an power automated flows, and if there are any custom logic that needs to be done. Example I will tell you, right. uh, I have to perform the operations like the CRUD operations and association and dissociation and all. So to perform this particular operation, right, I may have to write more than one flow for it. Okay. So rather than writing multiple flows and all, right, that can be easily implemented by using the custom plugins with a single plugin, right? So we have to do that particular envisioning as well. And also for the custom connectors, so in the we can also leverage the Azure functions, logic apps, all that stack that is present, where at times it can be a better choice, where there is no need for an architect or any person to reinvent the wheel. Simple, fundamental that we have to do it right. If there are any things that are available which can be reused without reinventing the wheel, right? First, the priority should be given to them. So, how can we do the optimizing the canvas apps? Now, so first we have to do it. What needs to be optimized and how can we optimize it? And analysis and improving automation is an ongoing effort. So and all there may not be a way to precisely express what you want, and there are many optimizations not yet performed. So simple and also see we have to observe this main point here. There are many optimizations that not yet performed. And see, as in Canvas app, right, user will have an certain limitation where most of the thing that has been managed internally. So you should know about the data access patterns, and petty apps are nice, and but performant apps get better for the user adoption. And with so many options, performance needs to be considered often and actively avoid the delegation issues. So these are the things for Canvas performance tuning strategy. Don't blindly go for the Canvas apps as they are present. First, look at the customer requirement and then only take an action of which one they needs to go. If you are going for a Canvas app, don't restrict yourself. Okay, we have constructed a Canvas app. Post construction of the Canvas app, we have to see about the things like avoid any work that you can, and defer work that is less likely to be needed, and parallelize the work wherever possible, and monitor the app in the operation. Work may not always be obvious, and progress indicator for the end user on long running work. So for testing, uh, we can use an testing studio for repeatable testing like suits, test and test steps, and the portals, Power App portal features we can go it. See, this is a beautiful way where these all things as a single product you will be getting, which contains the Azure integration, Bootstrap design, and also the charts and graphs, localization ratings on the open data protocol, and all these things. Centralized management, business rules, see common data model, multilingual and roles and permissions, and declarative automation, plugin architecture, and XRM story. So generally the Power Apps portal architecture. So this is a Microsoft. See, if you observe right, these are all the different things that are present. So at the end, portals are nothing but an web pages. So at the end, the any content will be rendered as an HTML. So that is what it is saying. So this web page whatever that you are seeing, this is nothing but a portal which will having the table list, table forms, web forms, and the liquid templates, which is nothing but the liquid syntax that you have to use, and the dynamic content and the static content, where you can integrate with the external sources, you can communicate with the Dataverse database, you can do the integration with the SharePoint, and you can see the Power BI for the validation, all these things, and also the extensible points that are also present. So this is a typical portal of application Power Apps portal architecture. Is a CDS portal which will consist of the main things: content, lists, and forms, and which will have entity forms, CDS forms, entity views, CDS views, web page, and CDS data. So obviously the Power Apps will speak with the Microsoft Dataverse and provides a built-in components that use model-driven views and forms, which will be easy to use secure content, granular CRUD operations, and also record level security, and is all easy to configure it. We should be updating the portal. So Power Up. So when to consider these things? So when if you wanted to go for secure interactions, you have to go for it. And community, if you want self-service sites like the ticket mechanism and all, can go for it. And just CRUD operations on Dataverse data, and limited resources and budget, business user and no code configuration requirements, and responsive design, content accessible across multilingual and single sign-on. If you wanted to go it, then consider as in Power Apps portal. And there are certain scenarios where we have to take in caution. First one is, uh, if you are going to have an interaction with the non Microsoft Dataverse or a non Dynamics related systems, right? We have to take certain caution. Why I'm saying a caution is it requires the custom coding that is required, which can increase the efforts, and heavy requirements around document management, indexing, and searching, larger volumes of data, and e-commerce requirements, including processing payments and maintaining an online store, use cases that are more appropriate for direct Power Apps licensed user access. So key solution architect considerations are, we should use a black template, and what is the gap between the template and the requirements? Will authenticated access be used? So how are we going to do the authentication using local storage accounts, or if you are going to use Azure B2C or existing directory like Azure directory AD, or you have to establish a new architecture for do it. And the data. So how you are going to do a data, how you are going to have in data modeling, all these things data to authenticated users need to access to. And portal pages will require advanced liquid template skilled resources. And as well, important thing, so that architect will be working with the deployment team as well. So it is a tricky to migrate the changes of Power Apps portals between environments. So we have to see about the considerations like the ALM, application life management, like portal content, how is stored as a data, and portal assets like views and forms are in solutions, and configuration migration tool. And the caching, for data and config is cached and don't expect the real-time refresh, and no explicit way to control caching for a specific table. So wrapping up, so as a user experience will be how judge your solution architecture, and take the time upfront to properly design your app composition and identify components that should be built. So this is about the Power Apps architecture and the sample project details and the explanation. Let me take you here. So generally this is an scenario. Let me zoom it out. So contest services, they are an market support for various manufacturer smart beds. They use a proprietary solution today to manage their customers and their support ticket requests. They would like to move solution built on Microsoft Power Platform. Some of their support requests can be handled quickly with a phone call and quick email response and knowledge base article. Some may go on for days or weeks as the technicians dig in and research, then solve the customers' problems. For complex challenges, they dispatch technicians on site to resolve the problem. Today, most of their support is reactive to a customer calling in, and they would like to be able to become more proactive. There are three type of cases that they will uh, get it in times from customers without support arrangements, items from preferred level support customers, and the premier level. So request for support can come from several resources like email, phone, online chat, social media, and so on. Request for support coming in need to be evaluated and routed accordingly based on the requirements and policies. And some of the manufacturers have apps for customers that communicate with the beds and can then communicate the need of the support of the Contoso. So Contoso receives a data feed nightly from the manufacturers. They support with customer information, including bed serial number, bed configuration, and all. So these are all the key facts, like number of solution users. Then people are using 2,500, and how many agents? 500 agents that are present, and number of field technicians are present. 100 employees and 500 contractors. Locations. Number of customers 1.5 million. Contoso funded 2002. Contoso board of directors 9 members. Devices, some users work with single monitor and also the resolution. These are all the different requirements. I said to you, right, there is a demo for it. So generally any customer, if they wanted to give any particular project, right, first they will come with this particular scenario. what are their pain points of it, and also they will publish these particular facts to it. And after that one, right, just they will come up with certain requirements. So just as you observe, right, this is a big customer contest services where they will provide the smart beds. And by using the smart beds, right, they have the different typical three types of customers, and they will get generally the customer request through the calls, email responses, or through the social media and all. And they would like to send the technicians at any appropriate time, so that the turnaround time can be increased. So these are all the key facts, and these are all the requirements. So for the people who are not aware of this particular RFP and all, request for proposal and all, so these kind of things will be comes from the customer with the problem description or the project requirement and all, with a vague requirements, the list of it. So just we have to uh, do all these things. And then what we have to do, right, we have to, as an RFP, right, we have to take this particular project. So first we have to do about the architecture diagram and the dynamics apps that we have to use. These are all the dynamics app that we are having it. So let me zoom it out for a few minutes. And the fit gap analysis. So just I have copy pasted all the requirements that are present here, 1 to 10, and just as a requirement. So we have to see how is this importance, high, medium, low, and how much effort that it can take, and can we implement this functionality by out of box, and implementation comments. It is a required. So see, customer has 16 requirements. They have an time 1 month. So 1 month means 4 weeks we will getting. So for 4 weeks, uh, as an architect, right, you should constructively say that out of these 18 requirements, which one are required. Then customer will take a step back and say, okay, I need this as required, and this is required, and this is required, and this is required, and this is required. So for the first uh, release, so they need these five requirements. So by having a constructive way of having a better communication with the customer, right, so as an architect I came to know that only five requirements can be done. See, if I have not having a conversation with the customer, right, so I will end up by wasting my the time and effort by looking at and giving the huge estimates for all these 18 requirements. By having a constructive communication upfront with the customer, we will have all these things. So this is about how we'll do the project details, fit gap analysis, and the common man tips. So whoever going for giving this particular certification, right, so first take some time, and there are certain meetup groups will be present where they will collectively prepare for this particular certification, have these certification join into that particular forums, and take a time frame and bound to it. Don't go for the examination for in a hurry burry way. And you can ask me a question, Venkat, yes, we came to know about this PL 600 and all, why you gave an project demo and RFP and all. See, this PL 600 examination have a pattern, like there are certain case studies will be given for you, and based on that particular case studies, and questions will be asked. So that is the reason why I have included a case study for it, where you will get some kind of information. Okay, case study will be given, based upon that particular case study, what kind of questions that I will get it. So these are all the things and all. And also another important thing, right, of the for the people who wanted to go for the certification from MB 600 to PL 600, they wanted to renew it. Don't go in a hurry burry way. Take an step back and do an see a big picture. And there are a lot of topics where that were included between the MB600 and the PL600 transition. Go through the learning path and see it. And another important thing, tip I would like to give, if you have any particular doubt of going the certification and all, right, first just prepare certification well. And you can also opt for double shot examination, where there is an option that will be present uh, scheduling an when you are scheduling any exam. Okay, so this is how I would suggest, go through it, go to take a time frame, keep in give you some boundary for your learnings and all while you are taking the examination, right? So just keep your mind at peace, with calm mind, go and just think about your experiences, how it is there, and all. Then you can directly go through this particular exam. So if you so I am done with my session. If there are any Q&A, I am happy to take it.
Thank you, Venkat, for sharing the information about the PL600 exam. That was really helpful. We have a couple of questions on the chat. I'll read them to you. So
Okay.
the first one is, do you recommend any Microsoft Learn courses for understanding the concepts better?
Yes, MS Learn, I told you, right? There are two learning paths that are present. I would recommend to go through those two learning paths.
Okay, and would it be possible for you to share their links on
Yes,
the
yes.
chat? Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, I kept it.
Okay, I will paste it on the chat. Just 1 second.
And
And
Microsoft Learn is a good uh, first and foremost resource where you can learn many things and keep on updating it, like it. Yeah.
thank you. And the second one we have is, I have experience architecting .NET application projects. How is it different for Power Platform? Any tips to keep in mind?
Right. So the thing, right, even though you are an architect, right, in .NET, so if generally we will get an requirements like for the power platform and all. I would recommend you first go through the fundamental courses like the PL100, the power platform um, maker apps certification, and the PL200 is the basic certification that you required. So there are learning paths that are present, and Microsoft periodically they will maintain certain events to understand these things and all. So there you can use it. In that way you can get more information about it. And if you go for the power apps and all, there are multiple MVPs that are present, uh, where they can help you at any point of time. Then there are number of architects that are present from the Microsoft who can help you all these things and all. Yeah.
Thank you, Venkat. Those were the only questions. And thank you so much for presenting on the topic today. Guys, if you have any questions for Venkat, I have shared his connect information on the chat. I have shared his LinkedIn, Twitter, and his personal blog. So, in case you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to him.
Thanks, Ritika, and
Thanks, Venkat.
Yash, for this opportunity. Thanks, everyone.
Mhm. Thank you, Venkat.
Thank you.
Yeah. So with that, that was our session for PL600. How you can get started with your journey on PL600. Now let's talk about full stack application development with Web API, gRPC Web, and Angular 11 by Swamy. So hey Swamy, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, Ritika. How are you
Oh,
guys
that's
doing this weekend?
everything's good. How about you?
Doing good. Very excited to speak this month, as usual.
That's nice.
Cool.
Okay. So over to you, Swami. You can go ahead and share
Thank
your
you
screen.
so much. Yep, I'm doing it right away. I'm sharing my screen, and
Yeah, I can see your
this
screen, Swami.
you're seeing. Okay, cool, cool. So this is the one I will push the code, whatever we are discussing, into this repository, which is specifically for Hyderabad Power platform. There will be this month's folder. There will be one folder. Just please use this. I'll give it to Ritika and Yash. They will publish it, but this is the folder where you can see everything. Okay, so what are we going to do today? Is we'll see we'll see that. So first, let me give the context. We are developing full stack applications using Web API and gRPC. So the different kinds of microservices we can create. So this is two of the methods which we are selecting today. One is to use ASP.NET Core Web API and create gRPC also. So each has got its own advantages and disadvantages. Like if you see that gRPC Web API and gRPC Web API and GraphQL. So there are multiple things. So people might get these queries like, okay, what should I use? Do I need to use SOAP over XML, the previous ASMX web services, or do I need to use a web API, or do I need to use GraphQL? Do I need to use SignalR, WebHooks? What I should use? So each one of these has got its own advantages, and they have designed for that particular thing. So you can use a small a spoon or a knife to do something, or you can use a big saw. So saw is designed to do something else. Vegetable cutter is for something, and the one which you use to cut some kind of hard material, you use something else. So each one of the tools has been designed for one particular purpose. No one is stopping us from using the spoon to do a bigger job. You might break the spoon end of the day. That's a different story, but each tool has got its own purpose. So that's what I just want to communicate before we get into this. So let's see that at a high level, not in depth, but at a high level. If you see that, we're in 2004, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. During those time, we used to use the ASMX web service. So that was from .NET 1.x, pretty old technology, ASMX web services. So this was pretty much an old technology. Even still, people are using this one. So this is one of the way you can create this web services. These will go back to 2003, 2004, those times. So it was purely on the SOAP over XML. So the object will get transformed from client and go to the server. It get retransformed to the server side. It gets executed, and again it gets traversed through the proxy. And now we started using the REST web services, and REST web services is again one of the best mechanism. And the content, the JSON content, which is little lighter than the XML, and people started using REST with few other advantages on top of this one. So then comes this gRPC. So gRPC is another way to develop this services. So microservices or services, whatever the terms which we can use it. So one of the thing which we can use is to create this service to service communication, or we go talk to some other API, get the content. We can do multiple things, and it has got a lot of advantages. But just to highlight a couple of things is, here here in API, in this API scenario, if I know the endpoint, and assuming that both these endpoints are anonymous, still if I know the endpoint, I can go and hit the endpoint in REST scenario. Whereas in gRPC scenario, if even if I give you an endpoint, you will not be able to hit this endpoint as long as I don't give you the protobuf file. Protobuf file is like an interface definition. So until unless you and the server or the service with which you want to communicate, if both the parties have implemented the same interface, then only you will be able to communicate. Without that, you will not be able to communicate. And another thing is gRPC works over HTTP2. Uh, all the benefits which you have on HTTP2, you get when you use this gRPC. And also, if you see, another benefit is the content. So if you take 100 bytes of JSON versus 100 bytes of same data converted into binary, so the binary data will be almost equal to half. So that means it will come around 50 KB or less. So minimum you're gaining 50% of the size benefit when it is traversing over the wire. So that way what happen is, the even if it is on the lower bandwidth thing, you will be able to get this communication pretty fast. Okay, so other benefits, as we have seen, that TLS SSLM in the it goes on this version 2, and a lot of other benefits which comes with HTTP2 is almost inside this. So you are gaining the benefit using that HTTP2. Okay, and if you see the GraphQL, when you are communicating with the large data set, so use this GraphQL. And webhooks in a scenario where you expose an endpoint and on some event got triggered and they want to communicate this to uh, the service which is exposing the webhooks, you can do that one. So one of the ways, like you can create a Azure function, and someone if someone changes if someone changes the repository, let's assume this is a shared repository, someone changes any of the source file here, that will hit this gRPC, sorry, this repository, the GitHub repository will hit that endpoint, webhook endpoint. So the example of that is, I'll quickly show you. One of the thing is in this one, so we can go to that settings, webhooks. So here is a webhook which we can add that one. So once you add that webhook, Azure functions or whatever is there, you can go and communicate with that. Okay, so that's the thing. So each one of these things has got its own advantage and disadvantage. So one other technology is SignalR, where it pushes from server to client. So can I replace one over other? So we might, I don't know, but sometimes it might work, sometimes it might backfire. So what GraphQL is doing, if you try to replicate that using the REST API, you might achieve the functionality without any issues, or you might get hit with some roadblock. I don't know. We need to do a thorough analysis and proof of concept or a technical feasibility study before choosing. Ensure that it's not backfiring us. So each has got its own advantages. So let's use it, know the benefits, and let's use it. So this is two kinds of server-side technologies which we are using now. So one is we use the REST as well as the gRPC. And then coming back to the NuGet packages or reusable perspective. Okay, we need to speak on that one. I mostly don't create slides because there are tons and tons of articles and everything. I mean, each company is giving very beautiful documentation, and I don't feel like I need to create one. It's pretty extensive. All the companies are doing a good job of documenting. So I just want to explain about this one also. So if you see that for the .NET people, we have this NuGet package, nuget.org. And for all those SPA applications, the Node.js or JavaScript or TypeScript, we have this npm. So here is where you get the npm packages. Npm. Okay, here is where we got this npm packages. So we get all these reusables here. And for Python world, we have something known as PyPy. So similarly, Java or any other technologies, they will definitely have their own mechanism to mechanisms to serve this reusable code. So why, what is this reusable code? Why do we need to focus towards that? And when should we do reusable? There are multiple points. So before even starting the first line of code, do I need to start thinking about this reusable? I don't personally, I don't feel that. I feel that first let's start. Let's write some code. Let's make the application work. Then we'll write some more code. Then if we see that some of the code I'm repeating, so that makes sense. Okay, now I'm repeating this code. So I can move this to a centralized location or a separate library, which I can reuse in both the classes. So that's what we are going to see now. So until unless I know that for sure shot I'm going to reuse this piece of code at multiple places, I that's my personal choice. I don't know whether that's right or wrong, but I do that until I identify. I don't push it to a centralized location. And here, if you see these reusable things, NuGet packages or npm or PyPy, these are industry standard packages, and hundreds of thousands of people are using this one. So the advantage of these reusable packages, we don't need to build that. Someone has already created it. We can start using it. So let's see one of the packages here just to understand the things. So for any of this functionality, if you see this Microsoft Entity Framework core, I'm just giving example. This is applicable for any reusable library from any source. So what happened is the first thing you can see is Microsoft Entity Framework core. So who is supporting? Who are the owners? So we need to know that who are the owners and how many people are using it as of today, and what is the download, and what is the rating of this reusable package. So what if we use that reusable package and there is a bug? Who is going to support it? And how frequent they are releasing it? So these all things we need to know. Suppose if you come and see this joy, this is one of the package which we do, which we use it for the validation in Node.js. And here if you see that weekly downloads is a 7-digit number, and also pull requests and number of current issues. Every package they definitely mention that what all the current issues they have, and the roadmap and the dependencies. They'll definitely explicitly call this out, that what is happening with that. Okay. So and another point is we need to focus on the license also. So what is the type of license? What happens if I use this? So each and every package whichever you are planning to use it, you need to focus on these things. I'm just hypothetically searching something here. So if you see that some of the packages are pretty old, some of the packages, yeah, which are new, or some of the packages that might not be applicable, they would have moved to some other version, or they would have stopped supporting it and doing different things. Okay. So different things we need to understand. So the first thing is, who is the owner, and when did these people released latest release? Did they release few years ago and they didn't do any releases now? And how frequently they are supporting, how many issues are there, and what is the license? Because without knowing the license, if we start consuming this reusable thing, we might land up in big problem. Some people, they say that it's an open source, you can use it and you can sell your product. It's those kind of things are pretty good. And some of the people, they'll say as long as it is I'm giving it for an open source, and whatever the product you developed, you also should give it as an open source. So some licenses will be like that. and some other licenses they will say that when you're selling it we need some percentage or something like that. So we have to extra cautious on those licenses also. So one of the tool which I personally prefer is that what was that I clicked on the okay. So one of the is this one, white source. So if you go and check this white source, this is the scanner which will go and verify our source code to find out what all the packages which we are using, and are those packages safe. Okay, are those packages safe? And it goes and detects like what all the packages which we use are they safe, does that have any security implications, and it gives this graph also, like what is the DLL, which version we are using, how safe it is, like green and different color code it is there. So we need to and also it tells about the license also. So we need to be very very careful before we use it. Okay, so that being said about the reusable, so we spoke about the types of microservices, and we spoke about the reusable concept. Okay, so next thing is this gRPC. So we say the rest is we are using since a decade and above, and gRPC has come couple years ago. I mean, it became very much into the market. It's there since long, but it has come into the usage since couple years. And is it something new? So if you see that remote procedure call, this was existing from mid 70s or late in the 70s. So different things. One of the thing is this SOAP over XML, which we used in 2004 to 2008 or 10. That was also doing a similar concept. The client will have a proxy, invokes that, and the method at the client it transforms this object and takes it in a binary format, and again it retransformed into the object at the server, gets executed. Those kind of mechanisms. And Java also had that remote procedure calls in that, and there are different things were existing since mid 70s or late 70s. And this is now has improvised. A lot of benefits are there. So let's start looking at the code and see what best we can learn from this. So first let's focus on this one. I will use that. Okay. So the first thing is let's focus on the common components. So if you see this common components, there are a couple of things. So there are different school of thoughts like how we can develop this. But one of the thing is that all these entities, whatever the entities are there, that will be defined inside this core project. So let me close all these things, and I'll open and I'll want to show the database. So let me connect. This is Azure Data Studio. Okay. I was using a wrong password. So this is the Web API demo DB, and here we have a couple of tables, the professors and students. There are two tables. So if I come in here, I can do select star from professors. That's one table, and I do select star from students. That's another table. So we can go and validate this one. So professor ID, name, object, the structure of this will be the same here. The professor, if you see that, we are defining what are the fields which are there on the table. We'll define in one entity, and the student is another entity, which again maps with these structure. data type should match exactly. Okay. And and another thing is, what is there in this reusable is some of the constants. If you spin up this constant at multiple places, if you want to modify for any reason, you have to go and search throughout the project where these constants are there, or the hard coded strings also. If you use this strings hard coded, so you need to go and look into the entire project, like where these strings has been there and where to modify. But if I use this constant, so what is the advantage of using this constant is, if I have to change, I have to change only at one single location. If you see that whatever the place, how many places you are using that, I don't need to worry about all these things. All I need to worry is if I go and change at one single place, that's it. See, if, the classic example is the two microservices. One is this web API is using this one, and another thing is the gRPC is also using it. So tomorrow, if I, for some reason, if I go ahead and change my connection string, I don't need to go and search 100 places. All I need to do is come and change this label somewhere, either this label or entire this label. But what we are using is this variable, the static variable, whatever we have defined under the data store. I'm using this in multiple projects. So for any reason, if this connection string inside this app settings we are changing here, if you are changing here, I don't need to worry about that. All I can do is come to this constants file and just modify this value of this property. That's it. It will work seamlessly, because all the dependent parties are using this property. They're not using this variable. So we are minimizing the impact of changes. Okay, that's one of the way to look at it. And another thing what we have in core is the interfaces. So these interfaces we have to implement. So why do we need these interfaces? We'll look at that in a moment. Okay, and we'll look at that. One second, I need to show something else. Okay, I'll keep this one. So, and next layer what we have is the Dal layer. So if you see this, the backend is this one, the database which you have seen here in this Azure Studio. And now the next layer who talks to the database is the Dal layer. So that's, different people, they call it data access layer, or different ways to call it. So the DB context is the entity framework core, which goes and communicates with these two tables. And inside the DB set, we are using the entities which has been defined in the core, and professors and students, they are one-on-one mapping with the table names. If you come to the database, uh, and you can see this professors and students. So this is entity framework core. If you come and look at npm JS mongoose, you come and check this mongoose. This is the object mapper for Node.js. What is EF core? This is also similar thing. So they will also have the similar concept. Any object mappers will have a similar concept. So the entity, whatever we are using, that will be in a singular, and the table will be the plural. Okay, that means this is this we are dealing with a single professor, but we are telling that the table is, or table has got set of professors. So this particular entity is a single, representing a single student, but the table has got set of students inside that. Okay, so let's go and now that we have checked about that one, so these are the two layers. The next layer is a business logic layer. So suppose if you are having Redis cache as well as some database technology to improve the performance. So every time we go and talk to the database, it might be much load on the table or the database. And do we need to go and hit it? When do we need to go and hit the database? Suppose if you are calculating some gold price or the stock price, it doesn't make sense to keep it in the Redis cache itself, because every second it changes, it goes up and down or whatever it is. So it doesn't make sense to put it in cache. So suppose gold price. So gold price might change every 24 hours. It's okay, you can keep it in the Redis cache, but every 24 hours you should have a worker process which will go and eliminate that, remove that previous content and update with the latest content. And let's assume professors inside a college. So how safe to keep this information? How, it's not how safe, it is how valid to keep professors data. Imagine a scenario, how many times in a year a new professors will get added in a college? Very rarely. Or a professor is getting a pay rise, or he got a promotion and they bumped up his title. It's very rarely, a few times in a year. It's not everyday's task. It is only few times. So it makes sense to bring in the content like these kind of things which very rarely change, put it in the cache, and the API first go and talk to the cache. So any business logic you can do here in this business logic layer before going and hitting the data access layer. You can do these kind of things. Okay, do I need to go and bring it from the cache? If it is not available in the cache, I go and ask Dal Layer to give me the content. Dal will go and get it from the SQL server. So that's the one which we use it. And if you see the tiers, so it's a 3-tier application or 2-tier application or n-tier application. So each one of that called one of the component in the big solution, we call it as a tier. So if you see this front end tier, middle tier, back end tier, so there are 3 tiers. So front ends again you can make it in different technologies. So I just named few spa technologies, like if you see Blazor WASM, Angular, React, Vue.js. There are multiple other spa technologies. I just mentioned few over here. Okay, that's one tier, and that will be in the DMZ. That means it's open. Someone can come and hit publicly available websites, kind of thing. And the middle tier is what one of the microservices. So in this case, this could be either API or it could be the gRPC. Okay, and within this tier we have multiple layers. So logical grouping of those things, because if you see this entire block itself is one component in a big solution. Like this is one component, this entire middle tier is one component, database is one component. If you take that in that terminology, this component is again broken or is a combination of set of libraries or a set of layers. So logically you're grouping that, okay, these things belongs to this layer, these things belongs to this layer. So the API here, we'll have the controller, here we'll have the business logic. This is a core which will be used in this layer, this layer, this layer. So anything which is core which will be used in more than one layer will belong to core, because that's a core concern. It's not a concern of any individual layer. So if you see that the database, whatever, I mean the interfaces, whatever we have defined, so interface is being used here, he used here, and also it's used here, and also the entities, we will use it in multiple places. So that's the one. Okay, so now let's see how we will be stitching all these things. So let's spend 5 to 10 minutes on to understand. First thing, we will see that how to create a web API. So in this web API, we have only one controller, a simple professors controller. We will have the startup class. Inside this startup class, what will happen is we will be hooking up everything here in this container. So Ritika and Ash, when I'm doing a debugging, sometimes the mic will get switched off. So just give me a shout if you guys are unable to hear me. Okay, so let's start looking at this one. There are a couple of things we need to understand. Something known as a dependency injection. Okay, and that's similar to, we can. I will compare always. I'll compare with this, your ATM card and your bank account. So you take your ATM card and go to any ATM, insert that, and you try to withdraw money. And if you have already deposited money in your bank, you can withdraw money. If you don't have money in your account, and if you try to insert the card and key in your pin and try to withdraw money, you'll get a decline transaction because lack of funds. Okay, so that's what we are doing here. If you come and see this professor's controller at the top, the professor BLL is being dependency injected. It's a construction injection is happening, those dependencies. And also we are having the logger dependencies. Nowhere we are creating new object. So if it is someone is saying new, that means it's glue. You are marrying those two components together. So it's not a decoupled thing. They both are married now. You're saying new. So this component is fixed to one component. It's not getting dependency injected. So it's not a good practice. We'll see how best you can do with this dependency injection. So who is going to inject these dependencies? Where it is holding all these things? That's what we are going to see right now. And there are two kinds of things. There is something known as a logger. There is something known as a iProfessor BLL. So we remember seeing this iProfessor BLL here in the core. We saw that iProfessor BLL and iProfessor DAL. So we understood that, okay, these are application dependencies. But what is this logger? We don't have this code for logger, but who is injecting this? Where is this being stored? So that's what we will probe now. So if I come in here, this is called the container service collection, okay, for dependency injection. If you come and see that iLogger, it is here. So there are some dependencies which comes out of the box. There are some dependencies which come out of the box. Right now we have 79 dependencies. Right now we have 79 dependencies. So I do an F10. And the moment I do an F10, we'll see that 79 plus, right now it is 170. Okay, so almost 90 plus, it's getting added as soon as you add this add controller. Now we'll see that when I add Swagger, it is 180. So Swagger, this dependency, once I add it, it is loading 10 more dependencies into this service container. So I go ahead and add this DB and everything. Now this is fully baked one. I can go and do, now it is 186. I can open this result view, and we can scroll down slowly. And at the bottom of this, you can see that iProfessor BLL, iProfessor DAL, college DB context. These are application dependencies which we are loading it. And there are other dependencies we are loading it in the as part of this construction, wherever we are configuring service, where we are doing it, and some of the dependencies which comes out of the box. So here in this configure services, I am categorizing in three pieces. The first piece is before even we pass line number 29, there are some dependencies which is automatically loaded inside the services. So that I'm calling it as an out of the box dependencies. So the framework itself is giving, hey, take these dependencies with you. I'm giving you for free. And some of the dependencies we are saying that, okay, add controller, add Swagger, add cores. These are some of the dependencies which we are adding. It could be from the reusable, or it could be from the framework, whatever it is. But we are adding some of the dependencies from our side. Those could be from some other framework or some other reusable libraries. And these are something which is very specific to our application. So the DB context is very specific to our application. The libraries, both this professors, BLL, and the DAL, these three things I'm categorizing as a application dependencies. So some of the dependencies which comes out of the box, some of the dependencies which comes, we will add it, and some of the dependencies are our application dependencies. So if I put a debugger over here and proceed further, and it shows the Swagger, and if I want to go get all the professors, and I do an execute of that, so you see this, the professor BLL has been properly constructed, and we have seen the dependency. If you see this dependency, the controller has got dependency on the BLL, BLL has got a dependency on the DAL, DAL has got dependency on the DB context, DB context goes and talks to the data store. So you can see that entire cycle of dependencies. So the controller has got dependency on the BLL. If I expand that BLL, so the business logic layer has got a dependency on the data access layer, and the data access layer has got a dependency on the DB context. We saw this logger. This is coming out of the box. When we didn't even pass through the line 29, we had these dependencies in this container, service container. Okay, so that's one more point. There are multiple rounds we will go here itself. I want to show you a few things. So let's assume that I comment this. Let's assume I comment this, and I will go and execute this application now. So it's like I didn't deposit money into my account, but I'm taking my ATM card and going to the ATM machine and trying to withdraw the money. So the moment I do, I'll get a decline transaction. Here it's a similar thing. I just want to compare with that. So you see this, the moment we go and we hit it, it says that unable to resolve service for type uh, Professor BLL while attempting to activate Professor's controller. So what does that mean? Is it's saying that, hey, you are asking me about this dependency I Professor BLL here in line number 21, but I don't know what it is because we didn't load it here. We didn't add this inside the services container. If we load it inside the services container, then it is good. It recognizes that it exists, because this is where the container we have seen that, where it had 187 dependencies. Dependencies which was existing before, coming out of the box, and dependencies which we added from different frameworks or libraries, and our own application dependencies. So we should deposit the money before going to an ATM and requesting for the withdrawal of that. That means you need to have that to request it. So that's one point. And another point is, how does this dependency injection is done? That means first it will come and it will try to create the instantiate this one controller, and then it sees that it has got a dependency on the iLogger and business logic layer. So then it will say that, okay, I need business logic layer. Then it will come here. So to construct this business logic layer, again it got a dependency on iLogger and Dal. So then it comes to create this Dal. So when it tries to create the Dal, it identifies that it has got the dependency on iLogger and the DB context. So let's come from this layer. Let's go this reverse order. So it goes all the way, it goes to the last man standing is this DB context. This DB context has got a parameterized constructor, but it do not have any dependencies injected. So this is the last man standing who doesn't have any dependencies. This will get constructed first. And the next guy who requests this DB context is the Dal layer. So the DB context, in our case, we used it in a same library or a same layer. So the DB context, Dal. So when it comes to Dal, it has got a dependency on DB context. And when we go to the DB context, we understand that we do not have any dependency injection, but it can be constructed. It will construct it, and then it will come and inject it here. And this we have seen multiple times, that these are coming out of the box. Now the next guy in the queue is business logic layer. So the business logic layer, what happens is it depends upon the DAL, and the processor's controller depends upon the BLL. So the last man standing, while going and getting the data, it goes this way, but when constructing the dependency injection and injecting it, it comes in the reverse way. So it goes all the way, it traverses the dependency hierarchy or a cycle till that it finds one component which doesn't have any dependency. First it constructs it, and then it gives it to the parent. So if you see that the DB context gets created and gets injected in the DAL, and DAL gets injected in the BAL, and the BAL gets injected in the controller. So let's see that in action. Okay, so it is here. So when I come in and click on try it out, so see this. What is the first breakpoint it is hitting? So if you come to the call stack, you'll see that right now it is here in the Dal persistent DB context. We are here. So DB context, it gets constructed first. I'll remove this and I do FI. So when I do an FI, what is happening is, again we can focus on the call stack. We are still in the Dal layer, and we need to come and check this DB context over here. You see that the DB context has been properly constructed and that's getting injected. Again, you can go very deep and find out all the properties and other things, but I think that this is a decent level of depth we went in. And when I come in here to the Professor BLL, I see that Professor Dal has been properly constructed, and Professor Dal has got a dependency of the DB context and the logger at each place. So all these things has been constructed, and we can see the call stack. Right now it is here. And the next thing is, I'll come here when I see the controller layer. It is having the dependency on the BAL, and the BAL has got dependency on the DAL, and the DAL has got dependency on DB context, and DB context doesn't have a dependency on anyone, but it has got a parameterized constructor. So this gets constructed. Okay, this gets constructed, and I will, now that's the dependency injection chain. Now to get the content, now we saw the dependency injection, it is coming from the last man standing to the first. Okay, now to get the data we need to go this way. Now we are here in the controller. So from controller we go to the BAL. You see that we are in the BAL, and from BAL we go to the DAL, and from DAL we go to the DB context, get the content, and see that it has written all these things, and we'll send it across. Okay, so this was a pretty decent explanation of the reusable components, or how one of the one of the ways to create microservice. This is not the only way. There are multiple ways to create it. This is one of the way which I regularly use it. Okay, now to create gRPC, what it takes to create a gRPC. If you see this, we have moved a lot of functionality to different layers. We are seeing here. So at this point of time, this I can call it as a API, or it could be the gRPC. Either API or gRPC, any one of these things. So we have moved all those functionality which are common to these libraries. And technically, in bigger organizations, they will have the NuGet packages, because it will be very costly for each one of the team or each one of the developer. They want to write their own thing. Okay, so what they do is, one team who are very sharp, they'll go ahead and create these reusable components and share it, because you're talking to some mainframes or some payment gateway or some other thing. You write this code and put it in the NuGet package. Definitely, whether they are using the ADO or GitHub or any kind of source repository, they'll definitely have a place to store all these artifacts. We have seen few of the places like NuGet or Node.js, NPM or PyPy package indexes for Python. We have seen quite a few examples. So similarly, they have their own place where they can store this repository. So internally, they will do a release notes as soon as they update or release a new version of their library, saying that this is what the library, these are the parameters. And if you have any queries, we need to go and talk to the respective team for getting some additional information, maybe on that, how to use it, or what are the new packages. And most of the companies, some of the companies, what they do is they definitely call for a change control board before they are making a breaking change of the existing library. Because let's assume Ritika, Yash, and me, we belong to 3 different teams, and we are using a reusable library developed by Manish. So if Manish wants to do a breaking change to his library, all the three people, three teams, whichever we are using his library, will get impacted. So he has to call a change control board meeting and saying that these are the parameters and this is the change which is coming in, and all the three teams should agree to that. Okay, you can go ahead and do the change, because if he does the change, it will break all these three applications we are using in three different teams. Okay, so that being said, that's one of the advantage of this one. Now, if you see that what is there in the web API, it's only this uh, hooking up, I mean, loading the dependency injection and one controller, nothing else. See, it's very lean. It's very, very lean. And one more tip is, most of the time we will use the app settings for connection strings. So similarly, if you see this .env file for node world, .env file in Angular or Node.js or this Java side. So this is one of the place where we store the variables, environment variables, the username, password, and all those things. And definitely ensure that never ever check in this file .env or .env local, .env production, or whatever it is. Anything starting with .env, never ever store it in the source repository, because it contains a lot of secrets and credentials. And the moment you check in this file into the source code repository, that is not at all a secret anymore. Now it's an open secret. Entire world knows that. Okay, so some people, they use this app settings. So let's assume that I have developed a web API, and Yash is using this and he found a bug and is reporting me saying that, Swami, there's a bug. I'm not able to go ahead with this screen. So obviously it comes, the ticket will comes to the microservices, and I am debugging it. So when I'm doing it in dev environment, I'm able to go through, but for some reason in production it's not working. So I have to come and change this connection string to production, and then I need to do a retest. So if I do this here, and because this is part of the repository, it's checked in. If I modify this one, then I have to go and change this connection string to the production connection string. And after testing, assume that it is Friday 5:30. Definitely I don't see that what is there in the connection string. I'll see rest of the files and check in and go home. Next day morning, entire organization knows that what is the secret username password of the production database, which is a security threat. So what the Visual Studio offers is, there's something known as a manage user secrets. So when you go and use the manage user secrets, see this, the app settings. Why do we need app settings? Is you have to tell what is required to execute your application. So when your colleague gets this code and he wants to execute it locally, he should know that what is involved in that, so he can go and add his connection string to local and retest it. But what is the advantage of using this connection string is, if you see that this connection string does not belong to our source code repository. So if you see this, the app settings.json, that exists in D drive. You can see this here, that exists in D drive. But at the same time, if you go to the secrets.json, you see that that's coming from the C users my profile. It doesn't belong to the this source code. So whatever the secrets which I save it in the secrets file, those are pretty safe. You see this user secrets, and there's a GUID, and I can double click that, and you can see that user secrets ID. So it points to that folder which is outside this source, so you are safe. So any secrets which you keep it inside that, no one is going to know, because that's on your local laptop. Until unless you expose it, no one will know that, right? I mean, if someone wants to log in, only I know the username password of this laptop, no one knows it. So I kept it open without locking. I went somewhere, or when I'm viewing that secret, someone looked at my shoulder and saw that, only those kind of rare scenario it will be out, but rest of the time it is safe. Okay, so that being said, now see this, how quickly we'll be able to develop a gRPC and test it. This was one mechanism. Another way to develop the another way to develop this macro services, this one, gRPC. So what does gRPC is? We spoke about the contracts. So the dot proto file is the one which is purely the contract. So what it has got right now, we are using the proto version 3, and we'll come back to this one. So here is the service definition we are giving, declaration, I'm sorry, service declaration. And we are saying that the service name is college SVC, and we are saying that it has got two RPC method, remote procedure calls. One is get all professors, and we are saying that get all professors method will take empty. That means we are saying that it does not accept any parameters or any input, but it is going to return all professors response. So all professors response is this one. And another thing, another remote procedure call is get professor by ID, that accepts get professor request as an input, and it returns get professor response as output. So here there's one thing known as repeated. It is one or more item. I mean, I'm just for comparison, I'm telling like an I enumerable or I list kind of thing, just for comparison. But it's a one or more item. Repeated means. Another thing, important thing is if you're from the C sharp or TypeScript or JavaScript, void, that means nothing. I'm not going to take any input. So in that case, we mention it as empty here. And the timestamp, if you observe this, the date of join, that is of timestamp, Google port buff timestamp. We'll see that why, what is that and why it is different from C sharp or any other data type. If you go into this one, and you can go and check, we can go and check that the timestamp over here. You can see that the timestamp is made up of two components. One is seconds and one is nanos. Okay, so if you come and see that date time in C sharp or any language, we can go for that matter, we can go and check that. So if you come and see that, so the date time in C sharp, that's the structure it is giving it here. So you see that there are a lot of things this is made up of. There are different properties are there, there's different fields are there, and different methods are there. So you can create, you can do add dates and add this, and you can convert like to date and from date. So you can see from binary, from file, a lot of things are there. But here in Google port buff timestamp is pretty simple. It is made up of two things: set nanos, set seconds. So you can do that, get nanos and get seconds, I assume. But that's pretty simple, only with nanos and seconds. So that's one of the important thing. Different to note is three different points. One is that Google port buff empty, and one is this timestamp, and one is this repeated. These are the three things, and that's the proto file. So once after doing this proto file, we have to implement that. So for that, what we will do is just we will come and see this. If you go to the obj file, and inside this debug, inside this proto, you see that there are two files it is auto generating. One is this college and one is this college gRPC. Let's go into this gRPC. So if you see that it is the same service name whatever we have given in that proto, let's compare with that. So college SVC, you can see that that's the partial class over here. And if you scroll a little bit deeper, you will find the method, gRPC method, and you see that empty. And let's go in here. So you're seeing the same all professors response. So that we had couple of methods, isn't it? One method is get all professors, and one is get professor by ID. So we understand this, and if you come in here, it is creating a college SVC base. So this is an abstract class, and it has got two virtual methods. So we need to override that. So that is the gRPC file. Another thing what it creates is all the data contract, all the contracts here. If you see this, we call it as a messages in gRPC terminology. They use it. They call it as a messages. You can think as a data transfer objects or a POCO classes or whatever it is for our understanding. It's simple. Even if you discuss about the simple layman terms, it's like input and output. That's what we can think it as. So these messages will be under the college. It doesn't have the suffix of gRPC, and the moment you see the reflection, that itself will tell you that one. And inside these messages, what are these numbers? So these numbers are ordinal positions. They are not the value which we are assigning to it. They are ordinal positions, because we told that um, the the way how the gRPC transfers the content is through binary. So that means when at the client side, when we invoke a remote procedure method, so the object or the input from client machine should go to the server machine in binary format. So once it reaches the server, again it has to transfer from binary to object. It has to transfer that. So how does it knows that? So it should know that what is the first piece of information from binary. It goes and it need to assign it here, and second piece should go here. So it should know that from which location to which location will get fit in this one, or when it is traversing from object to binary or binary to object, this will be used. So that's what we are seeing it here. Okay. And
Hey,
the next
Swami.
is, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry to
Ritika.
interrupt, but just wanted to give you a time check. We have 5 minutes left.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
sure,
if you,
sure. Yeah,
yeah.
we'll do the second part of this, because the client side is pending, so we can do a part two of this next
Uh-huh.
month.
In the
Yeah.
next month, right?
So I wanna,
Yep.
yeah, next one, because let's take a slow and give them the
Uh-huh.
detail steps. Yeah, cool. So next important thing is we will see the services, college services. So this is, we can compare that with the controller. I just want to do a little bit of comparison. It might not be the correct thing to do, but I want to do it so that we'll understand, at least from a visual perspective, what is happening. So here in this service, we are extending from we are extending from this college SVC base. So we have seen that these are automatically getting created. We didn't write even a single line, but these are automatically getting created. And this abstract class has got two virtual methods. So when we are implementing the gRPC service, we have to extend that abstract class, and those two virtual methods, what I mean, any number of virtual methods we have it there, we will override it here. And how does it knows to go ahead and create this? Because if you go to the protos and right mouse click on the proto file and click on properties, so the moment you do that, it knows that here this is a protobuf file, and what you want to do is you have to specifically tell that, do you want to generate only the server components, or you want only client components, or you want both, or don't do anything, leave it. That's what you will define it. How do we define that? That will be inside this C sharp project file. So inside the C sharp project file, there should be an item group where you specifically mention that, hey, take this proto file and give me the server components. Take this proto file, give me the server components. That's the link between the proto file and the services which are automatically getting generated. This code is automatically getting generated. So our service file should implement that abstract class and give the definition. That's it. So we can quickly check the, we can quickly test it. Let me take 1 minute time to test it, and we can make it a logical closure. And we'll see the client side piece in the next month, where we go and talk through Blazor WASM as well as the Angular. So we will see two SPA single page applications here. We'll use Blazor WASM and Angular to talk to API as well as the gRPC. Let's do that in the next one, but let's do this testing real quick. So right now the gRPC is being executed, and you can see that, yep, that's the gRPC server. It's executing now. So let me go back and do I have already given a couple of tools the client. So let me use this Windows Forms client to do this testing. I did start another instance. I have Mithun Nair. I'll take that Professor ID. Let's wait on that one. Okay. If you come and see this, I'll place this here. I'll place this over here. I'll remove this content and quickly come back over here. I'll place this and I click on find professor ID. So see this, it goes and hits it, and so it's going in and bringing the content. You're getting it. So initially it took some time. How much it took? It took 5856 milliseconds. Okay. So now that we already have the connection, now if you see that, see here, it is 5 seconds. It took 5.5 plus almost 6 seconds it took. So now I'm doing a second hit. Now it took it 132. From 6000 it came down to 132 milliseconds. Now the next hit is 87. So as and when it established the connection, you see this, the time it is falling down. So where is 6000 and where is 63 milliseconds? Okay, so I think that's it from my side for this month's session. We'll definitely reconvene in the next month, where we will look at the client side of this piece, because this month we focused it on the server side piece, and next month what we will do is we'll focus on this client side piece. I mean, that to not one, we will see multiple spa technologies. One is the Angular, and another one is Blazor. I posted this link, Ritika. So when I move that code, they can get it, or or I have the code in another repository. This is the repository where all the sessions, whatever I'm doing here from Hyderabad, uh, Power Platform Meetup group, it will be there. Or this is another link where they can go and get the code for this session, whatever we have seen. That will be all the Hyderabad Power Platform and Power Automate Meetup group, all the sessions which I do there, and this is the demo what we have seen today. Okay. Thanks so much, Yash and Ritika. Anything else, queries or something for us?
Thanks, Swami, for sharing that insightful information with us. Right now, we don't have any questions on the chat, but I pasted the URL that you shared just now for the Hyderabad Powerapps, your GitHub link,
Yeah.
basically. So I
Mhm.
pasted them on the chat. And guys, if you have any questions or any queries for Swami, please feel free to reach out to him. I've also shared his connect information, his social media handles on the chat, so you can connect to him.
Cool. So
um, that was all, Swami, and thank you so much for coming on to the user group meetup and doing the
it's
series for us.
it's my pleasure, Ritika. So I'm waiting for clock to tick. I'm waiting for the next month, so we can do
Uh-huh.
part two of this.
Right, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have
and thank
a
you so.
good weekend.
Uh-huh. You too, have a great weekend, and thank you all for joining. In case you have something you would like to share with the community on one of our meetups, please let us know. And thank you all for joining. Have a great weekend. Thank you. Bye bye.